Maybe this is one, Grant. The Golden State Warriors are a real title contender without needing to make a trade. So as currently constructed with their 87-man rotation.
86 now. D'Anthony Melton got a sprained MCL. So it's a weird recipe because, as we've lamented since, I don't know, the last couple years, they don't have, it's Steph Curry, and then there's not a star. There's no other star on the team unless you're going to just look at Draymond Green's impact and reputation and whatever. Like Andrew Wiggins isn't that guy. Jonathan Kuminga certainly hasn't been that guy. And then it's just a bunch of role players that play hard and defend and shoot a lot of threes. Like Steph plus defense and threes is a pretty good recipe for being a very good team. The contention thing, like a real contention thing, you get the feeling that they're gonna be, now they've beaten both Boston and OKC, but don't you get the feeling that they're just gonna be overmatched talent wise against the best teams in a playoff setting? And the depth, obviously people have been saying all year, the depth is not something that you can rely on in a playoff scenario. I think you can be really good this way, and they have been, and I think they'll continue to be. But I don't know, maybe it's an old school way to think, but I feel like they need more top end talent that they can't really get right now because that guy's not available for the right price to really feel like an OKC Boston level contender.
I think I would agree with you, but the fact I remember saying coming into this season that they were more than one trade away from being a title contender. And now it feels like they are just one trade away. And it's not, to me, it's not even about the regular season. They could wind up being like one of the 3 or 5 best regular season teams. But you mentioned it, when you get to the playoffs and you need someone, we saw it when they had Kevin Durant, where it's like to have that extra guy just to break down the set defenses, to beat, if they're going up against more athletic teams where you need to beat some switching, and which, I mean, they beat Boston, so maybe it doesn't fucking matter. But like when a team like Boston has 7 games to plan around what you're doing, or even a team like OKC, that's where I think you need, I frame it as they need a second scoring option, but like a second primary scoring option. However, and this is where I'm going to throw it to you, I can't tell you, names have been thrown out there, and depending on how much they cost, I could talk myself into them. But like, what is the type? I don't even need, if you want to throw out a name, that's fine as to use it as the comp. Like, what is the player that they need to enter serious title contention? What do they do? What is the general idea, the general function of this player?
So the cop-out answer is the type is the player Jonathan Kuminga thinks he is, which is just like the big combo forward / wing scorer that's hyper athletic, can't be guarded with one player, can get downhill
well off the bench, to his credit.
Yeah, I like he's been fine off the bench. I think the warts are still there. The athleticism, all the pluses and minuses are all just kind of where they've been with him. But that type, it's like, I don't know, Kawhi, like that kind of, or a decent version of Kawhi. I don't think it's and you could look at all the names we've trotted out forever of just like who's available: Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram. I think all those guys potentially help. I don't know that is like the type I would pick. So it's just the big combo forward wing, like maybe, or even to keep with the theme, like the type of player Andrew Wiggins was supposed to be when he was drafted, like that type of thing. You could also get a lot of mileage out of a quality, athletic, legitimately center-sized center that can be your role man, that can just dominate the offensive boards, block shots, like that kind of thing. Every big the Warriors play is undersized, or does not stretch. So it's that would go a long way. But we're also kind of maybe at the point where well, I'll throw it back to you. Is it possible that they don't need this like who Kuminga was supposed to be level star, and that if you made like something beyond a marginal improvement as a big guy or as like a good self-sufficient scorer, like that might be enough to make the Boston, OKC, whoever else fight like a little more fair in a 7-game setting?
So I guess it would depend on the route that you go, and I would view it through then 2 different lenses. And now I'm going to throw it back to you. the first one would be, could you just get another big? Because it's all right. You have TJD, you have Draymond, you have Kevon Looney's been playing really well this year. You have the ability to downsize. We've seen good moments from Kyle Anderson, but go out and get, it doesn't even need to be, I won't say properly sized, but someone who is bigger than any of the centers they have now, who top out at 6'7", 6'8". Well, how tall is TJD?
I think Looney is listed at 6'9". TJD, I think, might be listed at 6'9" or 6'10", but he doesn't.
So go out and get another.
Feels that way.
So TJD and Kevon, TJD at least looks like a center, I feel like, but go out and get someone who looks more like a center, you could say. So I would tell you, if let's say if you can guarantee he's going to be healthy the rest of the year, you can get it. It seems like he would fit the like the motif of this team in the sense that no one's really playing a ton of minutes and this guy can't. But if you could get Robert Williams III, I'm not talking about giving up a first round pick for him, but if you just added him to this team without having to give up any of the core parts, do you think that's enough to, okay, now we have like our big to go with Draymond, and then when we want to mix and match or do other things, do you think that then now you're really leaning into, all right, like it's defense and we just have enough dynamism up front around Steph that this is going to work?
He's like right on the cutoff line, I think. If you're talking about a healthy Robert Williams III that looks like Boston RW3 and that kind of thing, that gives them a like fly around, come from nowhere, block shots, dimension, like stash him on the corner guy like the Celtics did. Like you could get some real like dynamic contributions that, the Warriors current guys don't really provide. Is that enough? I don't know. It's close. That's an interesting name or interesting player type. I do think, just to sort of pivot a little bit, like you do have to assume that Buddy Hield's not going to make 46% on crazy volume from three going forward. Like, Draymond Green may not continue to make 46% on like more volume than he's had in several years like that. So that's all to say, I think as we're looking for help, it feels like it needs to come on offense. That's the thing I'm most confident of. I think the defense is just going to be this way all year. I just, it's hard to sustain the intensity with which they play, but because they just keep shuttling, high energy guys in and out of the lineup that are fresh, like you kind of can imagine them being this disruptive and frenetic over 82 games. So that's just to say the offense is just where we need to be focused, I think. So maybe that cuts against Robert Williams III, underrated passer when he's been healthy, but like, is it, what I mean? I think as I'm talking in circles, it does feel like you just got to get another guy or two that are going to be able to score in ways that are outside of this read and react, constant motion, chuck up threes and playoff Steph kind of offensive system.
And I agree with you. And so I'll break that into two parts. And so the Draymond without Steph minutes, those have actually been really good offensively, but the offense sucks without Steph overall, which I think proves two of the points is, okay, it needs to come on offense. And yes, this is a thing they need to worry about when you get to the playoffs, that we don't just get to, because I think, and I'll start with the bigger names. And so Jimmy Butler and Brandon Ingram are the two that are mentioned the most. I think both of those guys are imperfect fits. But like if you're the Warriors, because this invariably gets it, and we've already seen it. Someone got in our Wizards video clip that we did a deep dive into the Wizards, go check that out, was annoyed because they claimed the Warriors wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks for Brandon Ingram and Andrew Wiggins in a trade I proposed. I did not propose that trade because it only had 1 first-round pick. But if you're going to even take a flyer on someone like that, you are invariably going to have to give up, I would say, Andrew Wiggins because of just the salary he makes. And if you're going to get a Butler, certainly a Butler who's making like $50 million, but even a Brandon Ingram, or even a player who's making, you could step ladder your way there if the player's 25 million. Okay, sure. But like a Zach LaVine would be another name. You're going to have to give up Andrew Wiggins. And I already kind of see like some of the pushback from Warriors. Like, why would we give up Andrew Wiggins for this player? And it's, you were the same fan base that just wanted him gone last year, number one. And number two is, if you want to get someone or something, you have to give up stuff. Like it's, and I think that's the dilemma they're going to run into. And so I have one other name that I think is off the beaten path for the most part, because I think that's how good this Warriors team is. But when you're looking at the Brandon Ingram and Jimmy Butler of it all, is there like, one, do you like either of their fits, or can you see either of those working out? And then two, if you had to max out, even don't worry about the package actually working, but like what is sort of the max offer for each? And we can take it one by one. So with Brandon Ingram, if it's Andrew Wiggins salary, so you're talking about, that's when you get into the D'Anthony Melton or the GP2 of it all. If it's Andrew Wiggins salary and a first round pick, Is that a move you're considering, or are you that? Not saying that this would be, I don't mean to say that, like, oh, it's, if you wouldn't do this, it's out of control. But are you that worried about either Ingram's fit and or next payday that even something like a baseline like that is too rich?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is that feels like the risk reward trade-off is still like, it's not a no-brainer that you do that. And I think maybe that'll surprise people because Ingram is just a better offensive player than Wiggins. He does do the types of things I'm saying they need someone to do. Like him and Butler both, Ingram and Butler both are like, there's where you go for like a tough two when you got nothing else going on offense. They both get, Butler has been to my eyes like quite diminished this year, and he's in age 35 season. That's going to happen. But I still would trust him to go get a tough two when the offense is broken down. Ditto for Ingram. Both of them come with contract issues, right? Because Butler's gonna, not a given because he can get 50+ million by picking up his player option, but Ingram is gonna get or expect that $200 million deal. And like, then the question is, would you rather give up what you're talking about, a first and Wiggins, who, by the way, those same fans that wanted him gone last year, 2 years ago, were like, this guy's the greatest thing ever because he helped us win a title. So
look, we're all guilty of it. I just find it, one, if you're going to criticize a trade, at least get it right. That's what
that we agree on. That's a fact. What was I saying? Would you rather give up that stuff, know you're probably on the hook for $200 million for Brandon Ingram, or like maybe give Kuminga 28 a year going forward? I don't know. That's like not out of the question. I don't know if that trade-off quite makes sense.
Butler's more complicated because I think you can make the case that if he opts out, maybe he's kind of making the same, like he'll make less annually, I would assume, where it's probably like what Ingram, maybe they're in the $40 million range.
Yeah.
Who would you feel more comfortable paying for the next 2 years?
For 2 years? Man, I wish Butler had played a little better this year. I mean, we know what Ingram's going to do. Ingram's like at the point in his career where like he's this guy and added some 3-point volume. So maybe like there's even more upside.
Not so much efficiency on that 3-point.
No, right. But he's getting them up. I don't know. 2 years is like, Butler, you want age 36 and 37 out of Butler who hasn't stayed healthy through any of his 30s. I guess I would default to Ingram just because I don't think Butler's going to return value in terms of like volume.
I would too, because even if you told me to vacuum, okay, give up Kuminga and a first round, I'd probably give up in a vacuum more for Jimmy Butler. But when you look up how much more it needs to be, where, okay, the baseline of Kuminga and a first, maybe a swap. I'm not as high on Kuminga as you are, but like that's a deal.
That's been a real roller coaster, Dan, for me. Yeah. I don't know where I'm at right now.
That's a deal I would do in a vacuum, but Butler makes so much that you get into, okay, well, Wiggins needs to go out. And then it's, well, you're going to have to give up 2 of GP2, D'Anthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson when the trade restrictions on the other 2 guys lift. So I would default to Ingram too. But I'm saying I don't know that they need to go the star route. If Zach LaVine made, not that he's not a star, but if he made less, I would be banging the shit out of that drum because I think they need kind of that similar archetype of player where can you generate your own looks sometimes? Yes. Can you be a secondary? I won't call it table setter because you're not necessarily, that's not someone who's going to pass guys open, but can you make passes off the live dribble? Yes. Can you then just play off the ball and play really well off the ball? Yes. There is someone that I believe checks all 3 of those boxes, Grant, that makes about half of what Jimmy Butler makes. Not a name I've seen mentioned, and if it has, I apologize. I haven't consumed that content then. Can you guess who he is?
I have no idea. I'm intrigued. This guy's clearly underpaid if he's making half of that.
He is Jalen Brunson. No, he is Anthony Simons. Feels like if you don't want to go the star route, if you don't want to give up a boatload to where it's, they're going to have to give up something. It's probably a first-round pick, and I don't know why the Blazers want Kuminga. Am I at the point where would you trade Kuminga for Anthony Simons?
Oh, God. You're hurting my brain. If I'm the Warriors, would I trade Kuminga for Anthony Simons?
I'm assuming probably not because Kuminga fills I think he's like a pure 4, which is why he's up probably wide to value because I'm not a big fan of the one position guys, except for shooting guards, apparently, that they're coming back. But if you're the Warriors, though, the theory of this would be it's going to cost you picks. Maybe it costs you Moses Moody, too, who's playing well this year in a bigger part of the rotation. But this rotation is, I can't name a player. I can name Lindy Waters as part of this trade. People are going to be mad. It's like there's just everyone in Golden State basically plays. So if it's just, all right, we're going to have to give up the equivalent of 2 first-round picks, and one of them is going to be this year's first-round pick, and the other one could either be a player, Like whether it's not going to be Pods, I don't think it's going to be Kuminga, but if you can get Anthony Simons, I think that makes a big enough difference. And you can even step ladder your way to Anthony Simons, where if you really wanted to, you could build a package that doesn't have Andrew Wiggins in it.
Yeah, you could do it with the loonies and GP2s and what, you could cobble some stuff together.
But then man, I'm Blazers fans will make it. Why would we want GP2 back? And it's these
the Warriors and Blazers just keep ping-ponging GP2 back and forth. That just for fun. Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten any closer to. Well, we need to rein this in. Anthony Simons is a fascinating name. I'm gonna need to sleep on that one. Because all I'm thinking about is he capable of playing? Even Buddy Hield has been running his ass off defensively and trying hard and stuff. I don't know if Simons is that. I mean,
no, he's not.
Well, you might just get into the system and be like, well, you never would have said Buddy Hield was going to play like this. So I don't know, maybe it's just there's some magic juju the Warriors are sprinkling on everyone, so they try hard on defense.
But I guess so. Then to wrap up this portion of it would be, so we're in agreement that they do need an offensive infusion. But if you are going to go the non-star route, would you prefer them to set their sights even lower, where it's okay, Anthony Simons makes sense. We think the defensive infrastructure to hold up around him, but he's still in that $25 million range.
Right.
And it's we need someone who's even cheaper than that if we're going to go the non-star route.
Yeah, he's kind of right in that weird middle zone. I think you probably go cheaper and go back to the Robert Williams type. You're maybe not going to address the wing thing. But the more we talk about it, the more it does just, if you're going to do this, it needs to be a swing big enough to say okay, now we cannot say Steph doesn't have a premium second scoring option next to him.
That's what gets so difficult though, because if you're
not available, I don't think the perfect guy's not available. So I think my ultimate takeaway or ultimate response is yes, this is fiction. They're not a real title contender without a trade. But the guy that they should that they could trade for to turn their contention into a fact isn't available right now. Or I don't love. We've just bandied these different players back and forth several times. I'm not in love with any of it. So I think maybe that's just wait, I guess. And look, the longer they pile up wins playing this style and getting quote unquote getting away with it, the more patience they can afford to have, because you still have
bought themselves optionality both in terms of patience and the level of player or type of player they need to target.